Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to tell you a story that starts with laughter, whispers, and quiet judgment, and ends with a room full of stunned silence, respect, and tears nobody expected. This is the story of a man who was mocked for being a single dad, underestimated for his worn-out shoes and tired eyes, and dismissed as just another struggling father. Until one single moment changed everything. It was a rainy Tuesday morning when Daniel Carter pushed open the glass doors of Riverside Academy. The bell had just rung, and the hallway buzzed with parents rushing out, teachers calling students into lines, and the echo of children's laughter bouncing off the walls. Daniel adjusted the strap of his old backpack, holding his daughter Lily's tiny hand as she skipped beside him, humming a song she'd learned in class. Daniel looked tired. Not just sleepy tired, but life tired. The kind of tired that settles deep into your bones when you've been carrying the weight of two lives on your shoulders for years. His jacket was faded, his shoes scuffed, and there were faint dark circles under his eyes. He hadn't shaved properly in days. Not because he didn't care, but because mornings were a race against time packing lunches, braiding Lily's hair, checking homework, and making sure she smiled before stepping out the door. As they walked toward Lily's classroom, Daniel felt the familiar sting of eyes on his back. "Is that Lily's dad?" One mother whispered to another near the lockers. "Yeah, poor thing. No wife, no help. I heard he works some dead-end job." Another parent smirked. "Figures. Look at him. Always alone. Men like that never last." Daniel heard none of it clearly, but he felt it. The glances, the half-smiles, the quiet judgments that followed him like a shadow. He had grown used to it. Being a single father made him an outsider in this school full of polished couples and picture-perfect families. Lily stopped suddenly and tugged on his hand. "Daddy, you're squeezing too hard." Daniel blinked, realizing his grip had tightened. He relaxed and knelt down to her level. "Sorry, Peanut. Daddy's just thinking." She smiled at him, bright and innocent. "You're the best daddy. You know that, right?" His chest tightened. "Yeah," he whispered. "I know." After dropping Lily off, Daniel turned to leave, but the principal's voice stopped him. "Mr. Carter, could I have a word with you?" The principal, Mrs. Henderson, stood near the office door with a clipboard. She was polite, but her smile was tight, professional. "Of course," Daniel said. She glanced around the hallway, lowering her voice. "There have been some concerns raised by other parents." Daniel's shoulders stiffened. He'd heard this tone before. "They're worried," she continued, "about your availability. School events, parent meetings, they feel Lily might be missing out without, well, a mother figure." Daniel swallowed. "I attend every meeting I can. I've never missed a school event." "I know," Mrs. Henderson said quickly. "This isn't my opinion. I just felt I should inform you." He nodded, forcing a calm smile. "Thank you for letting me know." As he turned away, a few parents nearby watched the exchange. One of the fathers chuckled under his breath. "Told you, single dads can't keep up." Daniel walked out into the rain without responding. He climbed into his old pickup truck and sat there for a moment, hands gripping the steering wheel, jaw clenched. He didn't mind being judged for his clothes, his car, or his quiet nature. But when it came to Lily, when anyone suggested he wasn't enough, that was when it hurt the most. What none of them knew was where Daniel had come from. Years earlier, Daniel Carter had worn a very different uniform. Crisp, decorated, heavy with responsibility. He had served his country for over 20 years, rising through the ranks with discipline, courage, and an unshakable sense of duty. He had led missions most people would never hear about, made decisions that saved lives, and carried memories that still visited him at night. But when Lily was 3, everything changed. His wife, Emily, had been killed in a car accident while Daniel was deployed overseas. By the time he made it home, she was already gone. The funeral had passed. The house was quiet, and a little girl with tear-stained cheeks ran into his arms, asking why mommy wasn't waking up. Daniel resigned shortly after, not because he wanted to, but because Lily needed him more than the military ever could. He turned down promotions, turned down recognition. He stepped away from a life of command to become a full-time father. The medals went into a box in the attic, the uniform into a closet he rarely opened. Now, years later, he worked a modest job at a logistics warehouse. It paid the bills, it kept food on the table, and most importantly, it let him be home when Lily needed him. That morning, Daniel drove straight to work after dropping Lily off, unaware that the day was far from over. Around noon, Riverside Academy was buzzing again. A special assembly had been scheduled, a surprise visit from a high-ranking military official who was touring local schools as part of a community outreach program. Teachers whispered excitedly. Students lined up in the auditorium. Parents were invited to attend. Daniel hadn't planned to go. He was at work, stacking crates, sweat on his brow, when his phone buzzed. A message from Mrs. Henderson. "Mr. Carter, Lily has been selected to participate in the assembly presentation. If possible, we'd love for you to attend." Daniel checked the time. He hesitated. Then he wiped his hands, grabbed his jacket, and asked his supervisor for a quick leave. Some things mattered more than overtime. When he arrived at the school, the auditorium was already half full. Parents sat chatting, dressed in neat clothes. some holding coffee cups, others scrolling through their phones. Daniel slipped into a seat near the back. The whispers started almost immediately. Why is he here? Probably hoping for free lunch. He looked so out of place. Daniel stared straight ahead, ignoring them like he always did. The lights dimmed. Mrs. Henderson stepped onto the stage and welcomed everyone, her voice echoing warmly through the room. Today, we are honored to welcome a very special guest, a man who has dedicated his life to service, leadership, and sacrifice. The doors at the side of the stage opened. A general walked in. His uniform was immaculate, decorated with rows of medals that caught the light. His posture was commanding, his presence instantly silencing the room. Conversations stopped. Phones lowered. Even the children sensed the shift. As the general walked across the stage, his eyes scanned the audience. Then, suddenly, he stopped. His gaze locked onto Daniel. For a heartbeat, nobody noticed. Then the general turned fully toward him, and without hesitation, without explanation, the general raised his hand and saluted. The room froze. Parents stared in confusion. Teachers exchanged shocked looks. The air felt heavy, electric. Daniel stood up slowly, instinct taking over. His spine straightened. His hand rose with precision. He returned the salute. Perfect, sharp, respectful. A murmur rippled through the auditorium. The general lowered his hand and smiled. Permission to speak freely, sir, he said loudly, his voice carrying. Daniel nodded once. Always. The general turned back to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge someone very special in this room. He gestured toward Daniel. This man, you see here, Daniel Carter, served under my command for years. He is one of the finest officers I have ever known. Gasps echoed. The general continued. He led men and women into impossible situations and brought them home. He made sacrifices most people can't imagine. And when his country asked him to choose between rank and fatherhood, he chose his daughter. Silence swallowed the room. I don't see a struggling single dad, the general said firmly. I see a hero. Tears welled in Daniel's eyes, but he didn't move. The general stepped down from the stage and walked toward him. It is an honor to salute you, sir. The auditorium erupted into applause. Not polite clapping, not forced appreciation, but thunderous, standing applause. Parents who had mocked him were now on their feet, faces flushed with embarrassment. The same mothers who whispered now wiped their eyes. The fathers who laughed earlier stared at the floor. Daniel sat back down slowly, his hands trembling. On stage, Lily stood among her classmates, eyes wide. She spotted her father in the crowd and beamed with pride. She waved enthusiastically. Daniel waved back, his heart pounding. After the assembly, parents crowded around him. I had no idea. One mother said softly. I'm sorry. Another whispered, we judged you. Daniel smiled gently. You didn't know. That's okay. Mrs. Henderson approached, her voice unsteady. Mr. Carter, thank you, and thank you for your service. Daniel nodded. Thank you for taking care of my daughter. That evening, as Daniel tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at him with shining eyes. Daddy, she said, my teacher says you're a hero. He kissed her forehead. I'm just your dad. She smiled sleepily. That's better. And in that quiet room, surrounded by bedtime stories and soft breathing, Daniel realized something important. Respect doesn't come from appearances. Strength isn't always loud. And sometimes, the greatest heroes are the ones who carry their medals in their hearts while holding their child's hand through life. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because you never know who around you is carrying a story far greater than you can see.